Hello, it is Monday, June the 9th, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call Having Artistic Integrity. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. And basically, I'm going to flip through the sketchbook, and this is the sketchbook I've been using since October. It'll be kind of like a sketchbook tour, but the reason I want to call it Having Artistic Integrity is because this is the first sketchbook that was specifically for my channel. I just thought it was like an interesting experience. So sometimes what I like to do is just flip through it and then find like a topic to make a video about. For the sake of artistic integrity, I'm just going to flip through it, because part of it is it's basically done, and so it's kind of like a flip through. And I only worked on one side of it because it does bleed through. So part of this is if I get an idea to sketch something, I will. Otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of flip through it and like talk about the idea of artistic integrity. So what I mean by that is, one, everything in this sketchbook, it's pretty much been recorded on video. Not to say that you have to do that in order to have artistic integrity, but like that was the intention behind it and like the purpose behind it as I was working on it, that I knew that I wanted to do that, and I wanted to be something I believed in and like from the heart. And also as far as like the art aspect of it, or like the methodology of it, I wanted it to be something that I genuinely use and will continue to use or develop. And that's really like what I got out of this sketchbook. So just an example, when I started this in October, I was working from the previous sketchbook, which was mostly for the channel also, but it wasn't as quite as like focused. And yeah, because I hadn't been doing it for as long as I have been. So it's been like this month will be about like a year of posting daily. And that's bound to change a person by doing that. So it started off with some of the ideas of, I call it like the AOS triad of imagination, skill, and style. I went over kind of what I remember of stuff like construction and anatomy, but there's more to art than just that. Although for like the style I go for, like that's a part of it, like that's a big part of it. When I started the sketchbook, a lot of it was that's how I began. I've suggested in the video that I have about keeping sketchbooks and like the power of keeping sketchbooks, I suggested just getting like a sketchbook and filling it with studies and copies of like the bones and the anatomy. Part of it is just kind of getting used to like the name and everything, and also like the look of it. It's not going to teach you everything. So I did that like years ago. I just kind of like copied, like I had an anatomy book. It's not going to teach you everything, but it just gets you like familiar with it. Yeah, I was just copying like the drawings that were in it. But there's like, yeah, there's more to it than that. But in these videos, I just kind of talked about like proportions and stuff, which is like in a way, it's like a shortcut or like a tip for specific for drawing, and not necessarily for drawing like people, but you can use it to draw people. I think that's kind of a nice progression into like these gesture drawings. And one thing about drawing from reference, so these were like basically just looking at reference like real quick, is that you can compare it. So that's like one thing that helps. As you do that, you can start to stylize it. So part of what's going on here is, like I said, it's these, I've made videos of pretty much everything in here at some point, I think. And this will be like a tour of the sketchbook. And like I said, I usually just flip through it, and like at first there's a lot of, I mean, it's all blank pages, and so there's a lot of ideas, but then it's also good. So I call this like my work sketchbook. So it's not meant to like look that nice, although it can look nice, but it's really meant to be notes to myself on ways of drawing things. Testing out different pens. So in this one, I started going towards drawing from imagination, just sitting down and drawing it, which it takes work. It's a kind of like, you have to be in a certain mindset, and it's a kind of like trick, or like it's even like a methodology where you have to be pretty clear about like the shapes that you're going to use and like how you visualize things. So it's a certain mindset. And then I started getting back into comics, basically like drawing comics. So this was like a test comic, understanding animals more. And that's kind of how it works. Like, it's pretty easy to just look at a photo and copy it, but like to develop your own language, but you have to understand sort of the kind of, it's sort of like when you invent a language, you have to, which I'm interested in. It's kind of like songwriting or whatever. It's kind of it's its own thing. So I would like to invent a language for my story. But yeah, you have to understand kind of like the basics of language and grammar and everything. This is about basic shapes and forms. So part of like drawing from anatomy, so part of drawing from imagination is just kind of understanding like the shapes. So this is it's like the grammar, or like, yeah, like the language of drawing. And then once you kind of develop your own language, you can start to invent things. And then whether it looks convincing or not, it's sort of based upon like research. You kind of just have to, you can fake a lot of it, but there's got to be like certain rules. It's kind of like when people do invent languages for like a story or like a movie or whatever. Like, if it's built correctly, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, like there was a language there, then other people could use it. But like the whole thing doesn't have to be just that language, for example. Like you shouldn't have to learn another language. So that's kind of what I mean. Like when you look at it, it should look convincing, but it doesn't have to be exact. Like reference or whatever. I mean, there's an art to it. And then I think here it was about, if you were to, like, you can combine looking at something versus just coming up with something and developing like a style from that. I guess this is going to be kind of like a sketchbook tour. So this was one line right here, which I did a video about the other day. But just going back to the idea of artistic integrity, because that's why I'm not calling this a sketchbook tour. I'm calling this artistic integrity, is because I don't want to compartmentalize what I do here from like the rest of my life. I want this to actually be like an important part of my life that actually means something, because I did a video called like meaning and purpose. Like for me, like integrity is important. Like I don't like to cheat. So I want the art to be like, I want to really know. Like one of my principles is to not lie to myself about things, and so I really want to understand what I'm doing and like why I'm doing it and like what I'm putting out there. Which is different than, so I'm just going to flip through this and just kind of talk about like what comes to my mind. But like one thing is that I've had to learn is like the idea of like personal boundaries. And so things can be private versus like public, and there is such a thing. And I've had to kind of learn that, because with when I do like artwork like this, I mean, it's very personal. I mean, it's literally like something from my imagination. But like, for example, I don't put my face on these videos. I mean, it's not like hidden. I've done self-portraits and my photos are out there. It's not important is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like in a way, like this is more who I am than anything else. And so, yeah, that just goes with like the idea of artistic integrity. I just don't want something to like get in the way of this. And so if putting my face out there, or like my ego or whatever, because I feel like this is a lot of ego already. I mean, it's, and I just want to leave it at that. I'd like to get out of the way of it, basically, out of the way of the work if I can. Although I know that it's popular to put yourself there, to have people sort of follow you because of your looks or like your status or like the way you act or something like that. And I'm not interested in it. Like, this is what I believe in. So yeah, I didn't have like I said, sometimes for these videos, I'll just sit down and just flip through, but this is pretty much complete. So yeah, and this is how I came up with the idea for today's video, which I think sometimes is important, especially for somebody that posts every day and sketches every day. But speaking of that, it is important for me to sketch every day. So later on, like I set a timer and I work on stuff that's not for like these videos. So these are specifically for the channel, and that's why like I'm showing it like this, is to show that in a way, I mean, I definitely call this my work, and in a way it is my job, because like the channel is monetized, so it's not a ton of money like currently, but still, that's what a job is. So I do it in a way that I could push it forward more, like the money aspect, but again, it has to do with like artistic integrity. Like, if I can do this for now, this is how I'm going to do it. And then obviously money is important in our society. But I mainly wanted to, because I have the opportunity to do this right now, because I don't expect anything to like stay the same forever. However, yeah, I just take it day by day, and then it adds up. Next thing you know, it's been almost like a year. So I just take it like that. Like, I plan things daily, and then I plan things weekly, and then monthly, and then yearly, that kind of thing. And then anything beyond sort of like 5 years or 10 years, I feel like the times are they change so quickly, and it's so unpredictable that I put it in the realm of like dreams and visions and stuff. But like, yeah, the tactical aspect is daily. So I feel like I believe in everything that's in this sketchbook, as far as like the method and also the technique that I'm using. Because like I said, I also have my own thing that I'm kind of like working on it, but this is something that I'm sharing. And part of it is, yeah, like original kind of ideas and characters and stuff, which is mostly like what I do. I'm not so interested in doing fan art, as they call it. That's part of like the artistic integrity too, is like this idea of, for like a lot of years, for many years, I feel like I've kind of sold my art, like sold out on my art, just to like basically be a professional artist and just work in the industry and just to do stuff like that. I feel like, especially nowadays with what's going on, I can see how devalued it truly is, like the work. And so, yeah, just going back to the idea of artistic integrity, like I'm not going to give up artistic integrity, like what I believe to be like what is right, or like why I do something, just in order to like make money and stuff. And I've done that, and it feels terrible, because it feels like you sold yourself and your artwork. And that was like a big part of the block. I've done videos where I have a sketchbook that talks about like artistic blocks, and sometimes it's difficult to articulate because part of it is I'm still like working through all of that. But yeah, it's like it's so deep that it's sometimes difficult to articulate like in a public way. But that's like part of it is sort of when you give up your integrity, when you pursue sort of a job or work or money or whatever it is, like worldly stuff, then you wonder about yourself, and you wonder about your art and like why you're doing it. So, and I don't want to turn this channel into something like that. I don't want it to become like a job where it's disconnected from what I believe in, because it isn't. Like it's not an act, and it's not worth it. And I'm getting like too old to like do that kind of thing where like you can't even use that as an excuse. I mean, when you're younger, sometimes you do stuff that's stupid, or sometimes you do stuff because you don't know any better, or sometimes you do stuff because you're just trying to make it, that kind of thing. Or certain things are just like more important at a certain time in your life. But then if you really work on self-improvement, which a big part of what I do is self-improvement, like a big part of the journey and like the art. Because like, for example, this is about like the hero's journey. Well, you can't lie to yourself. You can't just go on like a hero's journey. It's sort of like when you're watching a movie and the hero is supposed to, because first of all, I believe that everybody is the main character in their own life. Like I believe that. So when I talk about being the main character of my own life, to me, like that is the truth. But that doesn't mean like I'm the main character of someone else's story. It's like you're the main character of your story. But then you kind of learn that you can write your own story. That's why I like stuff like the hero's journey, or just self-improvement in general, or storytelling in general. It helps me to see that you can use it to write your own story. I don't know exactly how many pages are in here, but maybe 100, maybe not, maybe less. But I only did like one side of it, so it kind of cuts it in half, and then also, which I don't mind actually, and the paper is good, although yeah, it's like kind of thin, but it has a nice look. It was fun to work with. So the paper itself was good. It took a while, so it took since October all the way till basically this month. Since like yesterday, I was still working in it. So this video will be a little bit longer, but that's okay for these types of videos. So yeah, even if I don't sketch like in this video, like I still sketch. I use like like I've been using a 1 minute timer. So anything that like gets in the way of sketching, I will like use a timer, and I'll use like a 1 minute timer. And I'm talking about like doing my world building stuff. I mean, it's kind of interesting to do it this way, to do like a sketchbook tour like this, because I want to believe in the stuff that I'm putting out there. And I want to believe in, so if you can get to the point where you have like a sketchbook like this, which is kind of like a workbook, it's incredibly helpful just by doing it, and also the techniques that are in it. Now, I don't mind sharing the technique. I know like some people sort of want to hide their technique, but yeah, just that's why I'm calling this artistic integrity. Like, I want the technique to be transparent. I want people to be able to like benefit from it. I feel like this is probably the best way that I can help people, other than obviously just like helping them physically, which, I mean, like I do that too, but like I'm talking about like art. And yeah, you can kind of use it for whatever you want. So I'm also using it for like the concept art and like the world building and illustrations for my stories. So it's not as if I'm not using it, but I feel like I didn't just learn these techniques like out of like thin air. So I want to contribute something to the artistic community. I don't think I ever did a video of this one. It's just clouds and testing out those markers. So this is like inventing stuff. That's what this page was. And then I kind of did like another improved version of it. Yeah, sometimes I'll leave this just so I can remember. Leave it unfinished. So I've mentioned how when you go back and like look at stuff like I am right now, there's stuff that you can do. I mean, you can go in and like add some details, but you don't have to. The person that's looking at it now it's like a different mindset when you're looking at it. You can be more objective. So since I do these videos every day, like a big part of it that helps is to have a system. So I basically need like a system. Otherwise, like stuff just won't, like, it just won't work out. Which is not to say that art has to be systematic, which it isn't. Like, that's kind of my point. Like, there's a certain controlled chaos to the whole thing. So I give myself enough like rules and boundaries, such as like keeping a timer or whatever, just to keep myself like on track. Although the actual like inspiration and imagination is not, that's like what ends up being good or not is sort of like, I don't control that. So I give myself like rules or constraints in order to just keep doing the work and like keep myself honest, if you will. Because again, like the person that is working on it might be very critical of what I'm doing, but like the person that's sort of like right now, that's sort of just reviewing it, in this case, like also sharing the work, like letting you see it, is more objective. Like, I'm not as critical. For example, like I can see, like, yeah, obviously I can go in and detail that, but like it's not such a big deal. But like when you're literally working on it, that's kind of what you're thinking, like, what's the next thing to work on. And that's why I use timers in order to, or just whatever like method. Like I just have like certain rules where I can like unplug from like doing the work, because there is value in this. But I know like sometimes people think, oh, well, everything I do is just like a sketch. Well, just speaking from an artist's perspective, and not from from somebody that does this, like this kind of thing. Like I would rather have this. Like I would rather an artist, like somebody that like maybe doesn't have as much experience or as much skill or whatever. I mean, obviously do it however you want to do it, but kind of like some of these videos is sort of like for my younger self, because I didn't have like this kind of guidance. So if it were me, if I were younger, I would say it's better to do this. I do have a story I wanted to relate. I just, I keep thinking about it, but I never have like a chance to talk about it. But it has to do with the idea of when I started keeping sketchbooks a lot and finding like the joy and the imagination and the inspiration and just like the intrinsic motivation basically of doing it. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes when you're doing something and you're happy, other people don't appreciate that. Or like they don't care about it. And that's kind of what I mean about being like the main character of your own life. It's like you as the main character may have discovered something that you're passionate about. So that's cool. And I support that because I know what that feels like. So that's part of why I keep a sketchbook, is because it's fun. So there's that. But then there's the other thing of, well, what use is that going to be? Like what job can you get with that? Which is a totally different conversation. But like that used to confuse me is what I'm saying, because I also went to like art school and stuff. And so that was like a big part of it, because they're there to make money. No doubt about it. Like they want to make money. And it's just a lot of these things. I mean, maybe like I will admit that there's a lot of naivete, but I have learned a lot through life. So this is just stuff that would have been helpful if when I was younger. And also, I'm not trying to get people, so you can take any of this information and just do what you want with it. I mean, use it. Like the knowledge is out there, but like what you do with it and who you are, like your character and your integrity, for me, like that's like the real work, is character, integrity, principles. So this isn't just your usual sketchbook tour. But part of it is I'm also like kind of just looking at it objectively. Like if someone were to show me, because I did want to do a video where I talk about like how to self-critique. Because I know, like I've been asked, for example, if I would critique. Like my answer is no. Like I'm not going to critique someone else's work, because I mean, I've had critiques also, but it's just, to me, like it's so personal. Like art is so personal. Like there's not like a right or wrong way. You just have to, like on the surface level, yeah, like there's sort of like basic kind of stuff. So yeah, I could tell you like how to draw like foliage, but you can look at a photo and see, or you can look like at a painting, that kind of thing. Or you can look like at a demo. I did this yesterday. And that's kind of what I mean. Like when I worked on this yesterday, I was more critical about it because I was wanting to figure stuff out. But now that I'm looking at it, it's fine. And so that's kind of the thing with self-critique, is you have to give it some space and like come back and just kind of look at it. But part of, I think, it's important to have the skill, because a lot of it is like a skill issue, as they say. But then a lot of it is also like a confidence thing. You build confidence by messing up. So you have to be willing to mess up, or be willing to have it be ugly, and then kind of go through build your skill, which means learning it, which means you're not going to, so that's 30 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes, I'll start another one. Which means, yeah, sometimes you sit there for an hour or more and end up not getting the result you're looking for. But part of that is also you have to give yourself time to come back and like look at it. So the way I felt about the way I drew this is different now than when I did it back in like February, it looks like. Like this is kind of a good example of that. Like this page was about just drawing stuff from imagination, and I like this. I didn't like it as much back then, but like you have to do it. You have to get through that. Otherwise you're going to look for a shortcut. You're going to look for a quick fix, and it's just not going to, that's like, there's some things in life where a quick fix is what's needed, but for stuff like this, for me, like the idea of artistic integrity, there's no quick fix for that. Like there's no quick fix for integrity. Integrity is built upon honesty, like self-honesty, and day in and day out, like being honest with yourself about how you feel, about like what you think, but also giving yourself enough room to change. So part of what I'm doing with my channel is because I don't see people like doing it. I don't see people talking about this, and I don't see people showing the actual technique. But I always admire people that are still kind of learning, but having enough courage to kind of to show. But I know that like to show like their process or their progress or like what they're doing. I mean, I admire that. Although, like for me, for example, when I first started this channel, I knew I could do the artwork. It's just everything else was just sort of like the new thing to learn. So there's that also. So yeah, you kind of just have to, it takes courage, I'll be honest with you. I've told people before that like I'm pretty good at a lot of different things, kind of like a jack of all trades. Is that what it's called? But one thing is like drawing is probably the actually like most difficult thing, and it may not seem that way, and anybody that tells you differently I think is kind of full of crap. Like in some ways like copying a style is pretty easy, but like really understanding drawing is probably the most difficult thing I've ever done, even compared to stuff like writing or music. Although I love those things, and I think doing anything masterfully is challenging. Like just, but this is why it's fascinating to me. And I can say that with some confidence because number one, like I do this. And then the other thing is, which is not to say that you can't draw something and be happy with it. So you'll notice that there's these little like just doodles. So it's not that you can't do it. I mean, you should. I encourage people to do it. Just like I've never written a novel or published one, but I still journal and I still like write like creatively, like creative writing, just kind of like this, like making stuff up. And I do that every day. So that's challenging too. So yeah, I'm just kind of combining. And I think also like self-improvement, like building character, having integrity and stuff, like it's also challenging. I guess ultimately like that's the real work. But I mean, it's kind of fun to be able to draw stuff. So yeah, it ended up being kind of like a sketchbook tour. But yeah, this is every page. We're starting to get to the end of it. And it's basically in chronological order, although sometimes I would go back and work on some stuff. So I guess there's not really any shortcut. Like if you aren't sure about perspective, like there was a point in time where I just kind of, I worked on like perspective, and it was frustrating when you're just kind of figuring it out. But I don't think you have to like grind through it, although there is an element of that. But like, yeah, I would just maybe set a timer and just work on it for a little bit when you're just kind of learning. And then yeah, like sketch other stuff. because my real passion isn't drawing perspective. I mean, it could be, for example, if you're an architect, it could be like building the thing, but like this is just part of communicating and getting your ideas like out there. But like what I really like is just characters and yeah, like the setting that they're in and like the plot lines and stuff. So all of this is just for the sake of that. Also, the other thing I don't really do is I'm not going to tell people like, well, you should do this and that like in your career. And that's why I don't really consider myself like that kind of a teacher or anything. I mean, I'm just showing you like what I'm doing. Because I'm a working artist, as I like to think of it. Like I'm working on this stuff. And I feel like it's part of my purpose to kind of share what I know. Plus I learn from others too, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm not going to tell people like, well, you shouldn't do this kind of work or take this kind of job or whatever, because I've done it too. Like I've done a lot of different things like in the art industry, done a lot of like, most of it is like freelance type stuff. And I mean, that's his own other thing. Like that's an industry kind of thing. And this is part of it. I mean, this is still part of like, so for example, as I do these videos, I mean, I have ideas for products, if you want to call it that. Like it can be, I mean, like if I write a book, I mean, that's like a product, and or if I do like illustrations or something. So like I know about that. Like I used to illustrate that kind of stuff like for freelance work. It's just I want to establish what I consider like integrity, like why I do what I do and like what I'm wanting to do. Because part of that, for example, when I was doing that, it was disconnected from who I am, like, and what I'm wanting to do with my work. And this is not something that can be just figured out like overnight. You have to keep working at it. It could be like the work of a lifetime, like your life's purpose. So yeah, this is basically the end of this. And yeah, I wasn't sure. There was like a spontaneous kind of video, but hopefully I talked about the idea of having artistic integrity. Part of it is just showing like this was every page that was in the sketchbook, which like I've done videos of, so I didn't want to call it a sketchbook tour because the videos were already showing you. But sometimes it's nice to be able to just kind of look at it without like working on it. But yeah, that'll be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I really appreciate it. I couldn't do it without you. I wouldn't want to do it without you. And until next time, keep on sketching.